Union is pushing forward here. This is the 4 o'clock turn and kind of spreading out across the hill over there. I'm on a cord right now, so this is kind of more difficult than usual. And also pushing through the cornfield to extend their line there. Now out front we have their cav just moved forward. We've got the first stop. One of the Confederate cav has been defeated. Those are actually natives. Not a bad morale, actually. They've been driven off. They had been in front screening this. They got shot up, and I don't know. The Union's moved forward and grabbed itself 2 of the command points. At this point, the Confederates will be able to grab their second one way down here. Able to keep things kind of even there, but they've got to figure out how to place their units to deal with the threat of this, as well as the potential of advancing here. They've got reinforcements coming, but they've got a while to wait on some of them. Some of them don't come in until very late in the game indeed. I've got to be kind of careful. I had to cheat there, move this Confederate leader so that he was within range of this command. Actually, he would have been with Jackson there anyway, but this game is fairly harsh in terms of the command ranges. You have to have the brigade leaders within the divisional range, and in some cases like this, it's only 4 hexes. That's not very far at all. You've got to keep those divisions kind of tightly packed together. I've been good with the Union. I didn't realize I had screwed up with the Confederates. It's no big deal. There weren't any casualties down there, so there was no reason he wouldn't be in command, essentially, which is why I let myself cheat. And here at the end of turn 4, moving into 4:30, the Confederates spread out. Now we're at the 2 points, 2 hexes each for control hexes, which is where we're kind of, breaking even there. Casualties, we've seen a few. It's hard to really express them except by looking at the chart, and I've got such light writing on here. It looks about equal. Lost another Confederate unit I've got to throw on board. A lot of the Confederate advances were pinned, and they got kind of, not able to deal the damage they would have liked to, bringing these smoothbore guys up to be able to, either fire at equal value with the rifled muskets or melee. I didn't have to retreat from here because these guys were pinned, and just all kind of positions like that. But you can see some routed Union units that have to be dealt with. So far this is, just playing out in a very kind of calm and stately manner. I'm used to the Pea Ridge and Wilson's Creek, which are these muddled fights in the woods. This has a lot of open terrain in it, and you're just seeing the lines kind of develop and fight more or less like, like Civil War battles should, right? Things are getting kind of weird here on the hill, though. This has some potential for outflanking, as does here in the woods areas. And there's some advantage to being in the woods in this system, so you'll see the lines stretch out into those a little more than maybe historically would have happened. All right, here in the 4:30 turn, done with the Union side of that turn. Kind of stretching this out. I have to be careful because I have to trace my lines through here. Oops, this rallies. My lines of communication through their command or whatever. Trimble's command here got shattered by fire from the artillery and the infantry running across where that little lake is. And that is a lake that's impassable, which is why I kind of have to trace around it. Got to be careful because I'm going to have to launch an attack against that, but that's a rough situation right now. Union Cav, actually some of it charged over here against Winder. It was repulsed. No great loss there. And then some melees in here where the Union gained some ground, drove some of Early's troops back. A couple of Early's units have been captured. I'm marking them with little circles. You can see the damage Trimble's taken, though. He's halfway to brigade ineffectiveness, which is something you don't want to see because he has a decent unit and it's really getting chewed up there. And as the 4:30 turn ends, the Confederates are doing quite well. Firepower exchanges in here, not much happening. This is where they're kind of weakest. The Union's was able to push with their melees, etc. Great. And like I said, Trimble's getting shot up fine, but what is it? Bayard's Cav has been wrecked. Now that's 10 victory points for knocking that out of play. And it's basically ineffective at this point. I have to look up exactly what that means. Why don't I do that right now? It'll help me remember to actually look it up. Oh, BC's in the exclusive roles in this game. So morale is increased. It can't initiate melee, which is one of the bonuses of Cav in this game, in this series. They're actually not too bad at it in this. Its fire combat is shifted bad. It can't enter an enemy zone of control, which sucks because carbines are really good at range 1. So I'm going to have to slip around behind people to get that advantage. And rallying is more difficult than under normal conditions. Now, okay, that's painful enough, but here the Confederates under Forno managed to break up part of Prince's command, which is very weak. Green's command is kind of divided as to where it is, with some here, not in the best of positions. The Union is going to have to fall back and hope they can hold this. It's unlikely that they can. Of course, on the other hand, the Union is probably going to gain this hex, so we'll maintain that parity of victory point hexes unless the Confederates are able to break through here, I guess. Alright, well, and in terms of wrecked units, well, Trimble's more than halfway. Early's taken a couple of captures. Forno has a lot he can lose. He's got a big unit. But here's a biggie. 2 artillery pieces have been captured by the Confederates that were placed here without enough garrison for them. Those were Prince's units that were in the way, weren't they? There's one of them. There's another one routing there. It retreated before combat rather than try to hold the guns because it wouldn't have made a difference in the differential chart. Union side of turn 6 up here. The Union had to fall back to the back of Cedar Mountain. One unit got caught here, finished off. Green's command. That's beginning to get weakened. I also had to pull back Prince, Geary. Try to defend my victory point hex. I'm not going to pursue on this side. I'm pushing harder on this side where I have the strength. We can see we got the first casualty in a gun crew. Some of these guns are getting exposed, and that makes them very, very vulnerable once there's not a unit on top of them. A little bit of pushback on this side, but here the Union marched forward and meleeed. You can see one engaged unit. That was the only attack the Confederates chose to stand for. There was only a +1 for the Union there. The rest of these attacks they withdrew. One unit routing. It's looking like this flank, Early's command, is going to just fall apart over there. At least we start seeing AP Hill come in starting next turn with a detached unit, and that'll maybe allow me to slow things down a little bit over here in the wheat field. So far, no fighting in the cornfield. I'm just right at the perimeter of it. Okay, and as we push out of the 5 o'clock turn to 5:30, the Confederates won the little engagement over here at the melee. They've pulled back a little over here, kind of rallying up what they've got and trying to hold this line a little bit. I've thrown a new force, Ronald's force, into the line up near the wheat field, which is going to maybe bolster their ability to defend that. But you can see elsewhere on the field the Confederates have just marched forward. Now they've gotten some trouble. Trimble got a couple of units, well, not Trimble only, Garnett, something got out of place and mixed up my units, got them in the wrong order because of different fire types, and he's unable to rally. He's too far away from his leader now. But yeah, getting some artillery on the line, basically just pushing the Union out of the wheat field area, and that makes whatever this is, this little hillock here, the cedars, at risk for the Confederates to take. So if they lose this, they make up for that. And they've also almost gotten this space. Actually, they have gotten this space on Cedar Mountain, which I think means the Confederates get some points this turn. Let's see. The Unions got 2, and the Confederates have 6. So the Confederates are going to pull 4 more points. This is going to be a tough scenario for the Union to win, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, no, because the points are slated in favor of the Confederates, aren't they? Let's look at the victory point situation. Yeah, the Confederates have to have positive points. I'm here thinking, ooh, if I can get to 0. Oh no! It is a zero sum, or centered on 0. I thought it was the other side. Yeah, so this is going to be tough for the Union to win, and of course they get sort of this moral victory if they can pull off a draw in the battle, which I think makes sense. Casualty-wise, it's hard to tell because I'm not really counting in real time, sort of, but the Union artillery captured artillery, the losses they've taken on the guns over here as well. Those things are worth points. Now, it looks to me like the Confederates have taken more straight casualties, especially over here on this side, although they've gotten the breakthrough there. So, you know, when the final reckoning comes, we'll see, right? Union side of the 530 turn, and they're desperately trying to hold on or reform. Up here we see them trying to get their units back into some sort of semblance, but we lost brigade effectiveness over there on Green's little unit. A couple other units lost too. Bayard's Cav, I think we already discussed that, but Trimble went under now. That's this command over here, and you can see a couple of routed Confederates pushed back with the artillery up there. So it's not a one-way fight here. I mean, it's not like the Union aren't putting out a decent amount of firepower. Couldn't advance over here because I had to rally this unit, and actually I probably should have just let it go. It's only got 1 strength point left. I could have pushed further to get that victory point hex. Now I'm not getting it, but the problem is I'm not really, this guy was pinned here, and I'm not really in a position to take advantage and swing across. And now with Ronald's units coming in the line, the Union control in the wheat field area is just not looking as significant as it once was. Now next, this turn, Thomas is coming in with his brigade as well, and this is probably close to the high water mark the Union's going to get here. They may manage to get these 2 victory point hexes at some point, but I don't think they're going to be able to hold there very long. Pushing up to the 6 p.m. turn here. The Confederates went. You can see they're still kind of blocked here. They've pushed forward though, knocked some more of Prince's unit back. They pinned some of them. Their own units took a lot of pins up here, which prevented them from being able to push that out. They chose not to engage in melee there. Trimble moved forward. I wanted to move him right up and attack, but he can't do that because he's brigade ineffective. And you can see he's been thrown back along with the Garnett unit and routed. The Garnett unit is not rallied because another Garnett unit got routed back. Ronald is not routed, or is not rallied, because he was up here to command a wider stance, planning to head this way, and the unit routed outside his range. That was my own fault, moving him there. I got this column from Thomas coming up. That's going to probably divert up here towards the cornfields. And over here was the 1 melee attack, early maiden attack. He's 1 away from losing brigade effectiveness. That's going to be a painful blow to the Confederates. But right now, at the end of the turn, they're holding 6 of the victory points versus 2. So again, they pull 4 in this turn. Around the 6 o'clock turn, the Union tried to dress their lines, but a number of units got flung back, and pretty much all of their units along the line were pinned and unable to act. Here we finally eliminated, let's see if I can remember who that is, Green's command. Completely wiped out. The leader's off the map now. He's not wounded. Prince was able to rally some of his units up here, but they're not terribly valuable, and he's one away from losing integrity. Over here, though, you can see the Trimble and even Garnet has been pushed back completely. But there's not much the Union can do about that. They can't really launch this forward. This is all one command here, stretching back here. Got to keep that together. They pulled the Union cav up and dismounted it. That was kind of an iffy move. You can see one guy was pushed back. This guy was pinned because of it. Low morale means they're very, very unlikely to stick around. If they do, they're likely to be pinned, just the way the combat chart works for this system, where you have to make a morale check for pins. Basically any result, and results are fairly likely in this, even if they're not necessarily casualties. Alright, well, it's time for the Confederates to go, and they're looking like they're in pretty solid shape. With a 10 victory point lead, I think casualty-wise they're doing better as well. If we just look at the points for these, they've collected 15 points in brigade damage. Well, Trimble's worth 16, so he's pretty hefty. Early is almost wrecked as well over here. And now the Union has a big unit. This is very, very tiny stuff down here. So the Union, if they're not pinned, well, they had their option to attack, to melee this turn, and everything along the line was pinned. They weren't able to. See, Confederate fire drove Prince back. Alright, well, now the Rebs get to move. Okay, we end the 6 o'clock turn. Ewell's pretty much used Forno's brigade, chased Prince away, knocked out a couple more units, captured some of them. This is basically ineffective to an extreme degree, to the sense that I'm not sure what I need to defend this. Remember, this thing is not as dangerous as it looks. It's really just a 1-point movement penalty. It says run here. It's 1 point for infantry, cav, whatever. So it's really not too big a hindrance. I do have to maintain a defense against that side, but I can pretty much slam through the cornfield and start threatening Geary if he doesn't get out of there, essentially. The Union has lost all their point spaces now. They finally lost this one. The cav deployed there. Well, they got chased away, essentially. Early, though, got wounded. That's worth... You can't really see with that light on there. I don't know. Yeah, there's lighting techniques to make things work better, but this is obviously not a professional job here. Again, Confederate fire along here, like the Union fire during their turn, was pretty much suppressed. And here, they had sort of a mixed bag. Lots and lots of pins mean you're not hurting the opponent much. In terms of wrecks, though, well, early being wrecked is a 30-point swing. That's huge. But I'm beginning to wreck a lot of those Union units. And getting another 8 points here for the Confederates. As long as I can pull that in every turn, I think I'm in pretty good shape with them. Next turn we get more of Hill's division coming into play. And I think I'll play that one out as well. Just pack it all into one video. I am going to need a third video for this, but yeah, Confederates can't even rally everything. You got Trimble here. Trimble's been, he can't be detached, but he's been sort of ignored, which means he's limited to only moving 1 hex per turn himself. His troops are in command, but he's got to keep this in range in order to rally it. I'm going to kind of use him to defend this victory point hex, I figure, while I swing Forno across the run. Union half of the 6:30 turn, they wanted to pull back into the cornfield, but they got a problem. This is a gun crew. The gun's back here. They would have had to abandon the gun. So they got to kind of hold up until that gun crew gets back. But now they've got kind of this exposed area. I sent one of these cav units in to charge. It got pinned under fire, unable to launch its charge or even fire back. Over here, again, strengthening the position here, but it just doesn't look to me like the Union is going to be able to shove their way into any of those victory point hexes again. They're getting pushed back, and now the question really is, where can they find to defend? Maybe they can get this hex. Maybe. That's about it. And if they can turn that one, then maybe they can get this one. I don't know, but with Confederate reinforcements coming in Underhill, it just looks so hopeless. And the 6:30 turn ends with the Confederates sweeping across the run, taking out the gunners, as well as some of the remainder of Prince's unit there. Meanwhile, Thomas ran up, and then his units were forced back, routed. He's been able to rally them, but they're not bad units. They're 5 morale. It's pretty impressive that they got flung back. Ronald has been degraded now in terms of brigade effectiveness, and we're not too far from Talavera falling either. He's just a couple of points. And this is kind of the problem for the Confederates. They're pulling another 8 points this turn, which puts them to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 26 there. But when we look at this, they've only done 24 in terms of brigade effects, whereas Early all on his own is 30. Another 16 for Trimble and 16 for Ronald. The Confederates pay more for their losses in this game. And not in every game in the system, just in this one. And, they are paying a price for taking those hexes and holding them. I think overall they're getting a victory out of this, but it's not as clearly a victory as it would be if it weren't for the kind of skewing of the brigade costs that they're taking. It's not that their brigades are terribly huge either, even smaller ones. Early's only got 16 units total. It only takes 8 to knock him down, but he's worth 30 points. That's pretty hefty. Wow. And the Union ones just aren't paying that much. Let's look for a 16-pointer. Early's he's not bad, but he's nothing special. It's not like he's this tremendous high morale unit. It's just this designation. He's in an important place early in the battle, and it's just very likely the Confederates are going to get those units hosed. Given that, it's not like their later units aren't fairly expensive either, but if you look down, Thomas is more expensive. Archer, Branch, Pender. It's sort of this encouragement to use certain units and not others that historically Early, for example, dragged his feet a great deal. So there's these sort of built-in victory condition limitations on how you play, essentially. I'm not a fan of that kind of thing, but, well, whatever. It at least gives you some reason to play a little bit more historically, because otherwise this system you never drag your feet in. All right, up it goes.